Thanks everyone for joining today. We are in the 5th session of this 3rd Graviton training. I hope you've liked the progress we have done so far. And also for today, I am going to make a quick check-in and that we can answer in the chat. And it's in one word, how do you enter into this call? My word would be celebration. Celebration because it's my girlfriend's birthday and tomorrow I'll return to Colombia. I've been 2 months in Europe and it's really cool to be here, but also it's really cool to return to home. Okay. Hello, Lynn. Hello, Dunia. Hello, Nicola. Hello, Bianca. Hello, everyone. I am going to wait 2 more minutes and start my presentation today. Today, we're going to have 2 moments of this in this call. The first of the moments is going to be me explaining a little bit of what we call the Graviton Guide. That is a tool for everyone who wants to mediate in a conflict, that they can have some steps of how to do that process. And then in the second moment of this call, we're going to do a small role play game. So I will start sharing my screen. Start sharing my screen. Also, I want to share these slides with all of you because for me, this is a tool that can be used by anyone. And also something I want to be like a point of reference in the Web3 space. So it's like, it's open source, you can fork it, you can change it, you can do whatever you want with this, but it's I am giving this to the space. So, well, we're going to talk today about this guide of a step-by-step guide for mediation in DAOs. And I am going to start my presentation. So first of all, why are we having this guide? Is because we understand that it's normal to have conflict in human organizations, and we want DAOs and people participating in DAOs to have the basic skills to deal with conflict. And for this, we need certain ethical standards regarding mediation. And some of those ethical standards are that all members in the Gravity group and its cases participate without coercion from any actor. Also, we need self-determination, and it's that the Graviton can lead the conflict management process, but cannot influence on the potential agreement or the specific outcomes of a dispute, because we are only mediators. Also, the Gravitons should recognize when they don't feel capable of facilitating a conversation for any possible reason, personal or professional. Also, the Graviton should state competence regarding the topics that are being handled. And if the Graviton is not so much competent in some of the topics because we are a community of experts, we can call help for subject matter experts. Also, some of the other ethical standards are confidentiality, and this is really important, and is that information related to the processes of mediation should be handled privately and only strategically shared with the agreement of the parties. And this is really important because we handle some sensitive information And the ethical use of that information is a really important principle of the fact of being a third party. Also, impartiality and neutrality. And it's that should accept the different points of view with freedom from favoritism. And also that the graviton and the mediator assumes a professional responsibility. This is not only a thing that can be taken lightly. We are dealing with people, we are dealing with feelings, we are dealing with needs. And when we are mediating, we should assume this as a professional responsibility with diplomacy and prudence. And also we foster rotation. And is that new trainings as this one and selection processes will be run to encourage members to become part of the Gravity team. And we promote rotation in the roles and management of the cases to avoid accumulation of power. So I welcome all the people that just entered. We are talking about the ethical standards for mediators. And now this is the question that Contessa made at the start, and is what happens after we finish this training? We are here on stage 1 and we are getting the training. Then when you finish this training, you can gain experience and contribute. How? You can gain experience either leading some of our educational activities, because we always have practice groups, we always have role plays, we'll always have book clubs, we have several education activities, and also contribute to our activities. And when you feel that you are ready, you can become an active graviton and manage conflict in your community, or be listed in the list of gravitons that we have, and maybe be selected for a random conflict that we receive from our inputs mechanisms. So some of the expectations of this training, I think I already explained this in the first session, but is that Graviton shall be able to make an effort to be present and accessible to their community, bringing high vibes and improving relationships. Graviton shall be able to separate people from problems. This is key. Making parties identify with themselves and the other as equals rather than centering on their own conflicting thoughts, feelings. Self-determinate for all parties and recognize key management points. Promote empathy between conflicting parties with emotional intelligence. Adapt their mindset for tolerance to conflictive situations, keeping calm and diplomacy to stand as an independent third party. And propose alternatives to deal with paradoxes while looking for the coexistence and attraction of opposites. Also act according to institutional regulations while implementing actions to frame unwanted behavior within rules and boundaries. And here are the steps that we follow for our alternative dispute resolution process. It's a 4-step process. The first one is where one or more of the parties to a dispute approach Gravity and request support. This is what we call identification of cases and referral of disputes by parties. Then when there's an identified case, we move to the second step, that is the screening of the dispute and invitation to attend a mediation. The parties provide the gravitons all the relevant information of the dispute and are invited to participate in a mediation process that requires their goodwill and involves a meaningful communication process with caucuses and joint meetings. Then when we have mapped the situation and we have invited the parties to attend a mediation, we offer premises to frame the dispute in a non-adversarial way and conduct a joint meeting or mediation process aiming to reach a settlement agreement. We keep a copy of internal forms for evidence and registry. And then the fourth step is that we act as a witness and facilitator of the settlement of the dispute and keep track of the agreements, but each part acquires responsibility associated with the implementation of the agreement. And if the issue persists, it can scale to other dispute resolution mechanisms for arbitration or litigation. So basically, this is a four-step process. And what is the first thing that we do when we are talking with someone who is involved in a conflictive situation? This is something that will touch on some of the topics that we have already talked about, like nonviolent communication, like trauma, informed culture, and like unified thinking, because empathy is the key to be a good facilitator. When you have empathy, you can separate people from the problem. You can listen deeply to what the other person is saying. You can ease communication between conflicting parties, focus on interest and not impositions, generate a variety of alternative paths to propose solutions, and use criteria to generate legitimacy and impartiality. Empathy brings us together and helps us to take rational and pacific decisions, because individuals who feel underappreciated or ignored are more prone to fall in irrationality just to defend themselves. And this is something that we saw in Morgan's presentation, where trauma can be created by a shock when it's too much too fast, or when it's too little too long. And when we get overwhelmed, our body can trigger the instinctive reactions of flight, fight, freeze, or fawn. So basically, this also relates to this psychological principle that is called the window of tolerance, and is that we have three ways of operating. One, when we are hyper aroused, when we fight or flight, and there's an emotional reactivity, or a hypoaroused state where we have a freeze response, a lethargic, a low energy, a negation of the situation. So one of the first things that you should do as a mediator when talking with someone who is in a conflictive situation is first trying to identify if they are in a hyper-aroused state or in a hypo-aroused state, to try to bring them to their optimal arousal zone and to their optimal level of functioning, where they can talk about their situation without being triggered by their feelings, and when they can also be engaged, but also where they can have a good management of their emotions. So one of the first actions from a mediator is to build confidence, to allow expression, letting steam off. When someone is hyper aroused, that's one of the first things. Like when we are hyper aroused, we can say things that we really would regret in the future. So we are offering this safe space for people to let steam off and then calm them to come into this optimal level of functioning, where they can continue talking about the conflict, but in a more meaningful way. Also, the mediator should always listen carefully and take notes, should ask key questions, identify feelings, use very careful language, not influence in any particular idea, and just being there to understand the other. So now we move to one of the other topics we have been talking about, and it's nonviolent communication. And sometimes conflicts are caused because communication constraints appear. And regularly, we can see people talking with judgments, making interpretations of the situations, saying maybe that they know why the other person did something, and all that also can reflect like a strategy, and also instead of making a request, demanding things. But we as mediators and trying to bring people to their optimal arousal zone, We also try to frame what they are saying and what they're expressing within the NBC framework, and trying to express and identify observations, feelings, needs, and requests. So yeah, we take what we hear from the people. Maybe we hear a judgment, but we then traduce that judgment into a feeling. And maybe we then try to understand what are the needs behind those feelings, so that we can frame the communication within a universal language. We also talked about this last session, but it's really important, because when you are taking notes as a mediator, it's always good to differentiate key aspects of the situation. And when you are taking notes, also, first is like making an observation without evaluation, then identifying and expressing the feelings of the parties, then uncover the fundamental needs that are triggering the parties, and trying to make honest requests for what would enrich life instead of making demands. So all of these are things that we have been going through in this training and in the past sessions, but also are really essential parts of a mediation process done within the Gravity framework. We also have here the Liberating Structures Toolbox that we will be diving deeper into this with Jeremy. But basically, these are different tools and different social dynamics that you can apply to try to reach a certain outcome, to try to have an intentional action within these dynamics. So if you are having a troubling conflict, or a situation where you are trying to help, you can see within these tools which one could fit the situation that you are trying to support on, or to map, and ease and the reaching of outcomes and the gathering of information with these transformative actions. We also have this framework for conflict analysis that we like to call the 4 Ps. That is people, problem, process, and possible solutions. So we are identifying observations, feelings, needs, and requests, but also we are identifying who are the people, who are the actors, what is the relationship of power, what are the interests, how is the relationship between the actors. Also, we try to frame what is the context that holds and gives a space for the problem. What are the faced arguments? What are the aspirations, scales, reach of the conflict? And if there is recognition and willingness to tackle the conflicts from the people. Then we see the process, and is what were the triggering events? What were the ways of fighting? How has been the management given? How has been the communication, and the chronology of the dispute? When did it started? How long has it been going? And yeah, trying to understand the process that is holding and that is feeding the conflict. And then we try to understand some possible solutions. I always like the compared method, and is that sometimes we think that we are facing a conflictive situation, and that conflictive situation has never happened again or before, but really we can compare to other conflicts, and there are certain similarities between some of the conflictive situations, and we can understand what happened in that previous situation, and also how can we learn from that past experience to explore alternatives, test the legitimacy of agreements, make some planning, and foreseeing reaction. Also, understanding some follow-up mechanisms. So right now, I am showing you some of these key aspects on the 4 Ps. So what I am trying to tell to you right now is that if you answer these topics, you may be able to have a better understanding of a conflictive situation than if you just hear someone talking, because you would be differentiating key aspects of the conflict. And when you have this big understanding of the situation, you are more able to deal with it in an adversarial way, and also invite people to a joint space, building some common ground, where with more information than what it was perceived initially. So who are the main and secondary actors? What's the power relationship? What's the feeling of the actors? What is the context? What is the central aspect of the disputes? What are some of the desires and expectations from the parties? What is the scale, status, and potential impact of the conflict? Recognition of the conflictive situation by the parties. And is that in this online environment, it's really easy for things to go public. But we try to offer a more private tackling of the situations, because we think that when things go public, everyone puts their hands on the issue and everyone gives an opinion, but they are not really helping to the transformation of the situation. So we like to have the management of the conflicts only with the involved parts and relevant people to the conflict. So then we, for the 4 Ps on the process, we can define what were the facts that have marked the evolution of the conflict, what has been the forms of struggle and interaction with the conflict, how is the communication between actors, who are some supportive third parties, what has been the timeline and time lapse of the situation, some sensitive topics and actions that can trigger an escalation of the conflict. It's also good to identify what can make the conflict scale again, so that when we are building this safe space, we try to avoid that into coming into the safe space, so that the conflict doesn't scale again. And what I said some minutes before, the comparative method. And then when we are talking about possible solutions, it's always good to have multiple answers and possible ways that the conflict can unfold. It's good to take into account how to place legitimacy of the decisions and is how to make binding decisions. Some prospection of the conflict to prevent social responses and see future scenarios, things and way to see how can we make follow-up for the implementation and the mechanisms to have accountability for the responsibility of the parties.
Ja, der gestern gegen 20:33 Uhr erreichen wir den Stuttgart Hauptbahnhof. Dort haben Sie noch Anschluss an den Intercity 2062 nach Karlsruhe.
I will mute that mic. Okay. And then we like to differentiate what are short-term responses and long-term transformative actions. Short-term responses are immediate actions with a direct impact of solving the dispute, and long-term transformative actions are things that help to prevent conflict and build trust. So basically, this is also the mediation flow that we have. And it's that basically, I am going to explain it really fast. And it's that if we have the goodwill of the parties to engage in a meaningful communicational process, we can continue the mediation process. But if we don't have the goodwill of the parties to mediate, we cannot continue the process, because this is a voluntary process. and we cannot impose anything. So if people agree to mediate, then we do this of caucuses that are private meetings with all the parties, and we identify common ground to prepare a joint conversation. And when we are having the joint conversation, we can have two possible outcomes. If the parties agree on a settlement agreement and they reach to a solution, we can act as a witness and as a facilitator of that conversation, and a facilitator and a witness for the possible agreements, and following up the implementation of the agreement. But if the parties don't reach an agreement to mediate, we also can state that there was no agreement from the mediation process, and this could be seen as a previous step for other dispute resolution mechanisms like court, litigation, or arbitration that we want in the future to be able to implement not only mediation in Gravity, but also arbitration. The difference between mediation and arbitration is that in mediation, the third party is a facilitator for the communication, but doesn't have any say on the outcome of the dispute. But in arbitration, in an arbitration process, the parties give this third side the authority to make a decision on the dispute, a binding decision of the dispute. And even if there is an agreement or not, we can stay with the registry of the situation, and it gains legitimacy from follow-up and implementation. Here are some guiding questions when we are talking to someone who is involved in a conflictive situation. It's good to not talk about the past, but to talk about the present. It's good if you try to not point out individual responsibilities and you avoid focusing on names. And it's not necessary to make all these questions at once, but when people start opening, catch the relevant information and try to traduce it into this framework that we are presenting, the 4 Ps and the OFNER, the nonviolent communication. So some of the guiding questions that you can ask someone who is in a conflictive situation to gather relevant information are: how do we end something not desired and build something we do desire? Could you describe the conflictive situation that happened? What happened? Why do you think it happened? What would be the best possible outcome for you? What are you willing to compromise, negotiate in this process? What would be the worst case scenario for you in this situation? How would you like to feel after what happened? What are your needs in this situation? What do you think can be done to restore the relationship and build trust? What can we learn from this? How can we apply these learnings? All of these guiding questions can be asked, and you will see that you get a lot of information coming from these questions. And also sometimes people ask me like, hey, maybe I want to act as a facilitator, but I don't know how to approach someone. So here's also like a first approach draft that you can use. And it's like, hey, hello, how are you? My name is XXX, and I am a facilitator of conflict management in DAOs. I'm reaching out with the intention of supporting meaningful communicational processes and build common ground for possible agreements that meet the needs of the party involved. Would you be interested in having a meeting to talk on the issue? And that's how we open a caucus. And here we have also some of the forms that we use. I am going to show you. This is the observation form, where you can have some of these guiding questions, and here you write the name of the party, and you start asking some of these questions, and you write here what they are telling you to gather information and to take some notes. And here then you make some key points of mutual interest and key points of mutual disagreement. This is to identify the common ground. and to identify what are you trying to avoid that can affect the safe space that we are creating. We also have a mediation form that states some of the agreements that the parties do when they enter to the mediation, and is that it's a voluntary process and all that we have been talking about. Also, here we can include some notes from the observation form. Here the notes can be really like unorganized, but here you can put some notes that are more polished, and you can describe the agreement if necessary between the parties. And I always like to make a reconciliation ritual and some of the transformational actions considered, and what can each part learn from this, and if there was an agreement, yes or no. That is, it's always respectable if you don't reach an agreement. And sometimes we think that a good agreement is an agreement of when people stay together, but also it's a good agreement if people decide and agree to take some distance. Sometimes people think that when you're trying to mediate, you're always trying to get into a mixed or blended approach, and it's good. But also if the solution and if the outcome that emerged from the parties is to take some distance and agree to disagree, that's also respectable. And this is a Venn diagram that we have been working on that integrates all what we have been talking, and it has the Offner and the 4Ps. The Offner is an NBC and the 4Ps. So here we have people, problem, process, possible solutions, observation, feelings, needs, requests, and we have here resistance, change, short-term and long-term. And here we have the strategy, the intention, the legitimacy, consequences, and purpose. So if you are trying to map a conflict, here you can write like the name of the parties. Here you can write the aspects of the problem, the aspects on the process of how the problem has been growing, some possible solutions. And by mapping this, you will be able to have what I have been talking of a way to present the conflict in a non-adversarial way, and also to have some information and about the conflict, so that then when you have this, you can have like a roadmap, and also you can present this to the parties to see if they have consent on how are you seeing the conflict, so that then when you enter into into the joint conversation, you have some common ground already built. And it's very, 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 very relevant to go into a mediated session with a lot of preparation and a lot of recognition of that safe space, because if you are not, if you haven't built a safe space enough, it can happen that in a mediation, a spark can make it the conflict explode again. So we want to be sure that when people is talking in a joint conversation, they are already prepared for that conversation. And that's all the preparation that we do with the caucuses. And yeah, we all, what we do is when we're trying to reach an agreement, is that we all have a most desired outcome and a least acceptable agreement. So what we try to do is to find this mutual motivation and zone of possible agreement between the most desired outcome of each party and the least acceptable agreement of each party. Here is the mutual motivation zone and the zone of possible agreement, what we call BATNA, or best agreement to a negotiated okay, best agreement to a negotiated dispute. Maybe I am missing the A, but it's yeah, the best agreement to a negotiated
Alternative.
Alternative to a negotiated agreement. Okay. Also, we keep a registry for transparency and accountability. That's the Gravity registry, where we right now have mediated 24 cases. The new one should be the number 25. And we have more or less 2 years of this project. So right now we have been handling like 2 conflicts per month. But I think we can scale if we reach out to more communities, and also if we have more mediators. I also see that there are some people asking about the secret word. I will be sharing it. I will be sharing it after I finish my presentation. Also, right now, as I showed you before, we use Google Docs to make our mediation agreements. That's okay. But we are also working with this hackathon project that was sponsored by One Hive, that is called Unbreakable Bows, where we are trying to provide people with open source legal documents that can be cryptographically signed and encrypted only by the parties. So that means that if I make a mediation agreement with someone, only that person and me would be able to access that mediation agreement, unless some of them intentionally makes it public because there's a dispute on the agreement. So yeah, this is a really cool project. And here, as you can see, we want to have some templates like employment agreement, independent contractor agreement, and the mediation agreement, where anyone can say, okay, I want to make a mediation agreement, and this would have a more binding approach because you have like the signature of the parties from their account, instead of a Google Doc that can be only like paper. But here in this mediation agreement, we could also have even a collateral to dispute. So this would add a lot of frameworks, a lot of tools to improve how the mediation goes. And even this would be a key step for the implementation of arbitration, because right now this would be connected to Celeste, that is a court in One Hive that provides that arbitration service. And if a mediation agreement is violated or there's a dispute around a mediation agreement, that can go to arbitration. So this is like what we are moving into, to have the cryptographic signature and encryption from the agreements. And this is the conflict management cycle that we have been talking about. And is that we have an internal management layer that can be that can use self-composition, where the outcomes of a dispute emerge from dialogue between parties compromising for win-win solutions. And here we have the referral and identification of conflicts. And within this self-composition layer, if the conflict can be solved within the internal management, it only goes to follow-up and a review of a transformational action, and it can stay in the internal management layer. But also, if the dispute continues and you don't reach an agreement within the internal management, we can also scale to an external management layer, where the disputes are solved with a third party, by a third party with authority in favor of one side or the other. And then that would be the jump to arbitration on Celeste and having an external follow-up. These are all features that are coming with the implementation of Unbreakable Bows, that we will be able to scale from mediation to arbitration. And this is a reconciliation ritual that I always like to practice that is called Ho'oponopono. This is from Hawaii. And it is thank you, I love you, forgive me, and I'm sorry. And what I like to do when I am facilitating a mediation between people is that once that we are advanced in the mediation, I request them to say, hey, say thank you to the other part for something. Tell the other part, I love you for something. Tell the other part, forgive me, or I forgive you for something. And I am sorry for something. And this is a reconciliation ritual that when two parts that are conflicting say this to each other, that go like helps to restore trust and restore the relationship. So it's like a reconciliation ritual that can be practiced within the mediations. Okay, we have time for the activity that I have prepared. So what we're going to do is that we're going to split into two groups, and one group will be part A and one group will be part B. And I will give you some descriptions of a situation, and then we will be role playing. In this role play, we don't have a third party. So we won't have like a proper mediator in this conflict. But what we also always try to propose to the parties is to have them first try to manage the situation themselves. So it's also really important that before trying to go to someone else, we also try to solve it by ourselves. And for that, we will try to put you in this conflictive situation, so that you can put in practice all what we have learned, but participating in a conflict, not mediating. In one of the next sessions, we will be making a role play with mediators, but right now it's a two-party conflict, and you will be inside the conflict, either being part A or being part B. So I will stop sharing to cut the information. Also, right now, if you have some questions, please, this is the moment, and I will also look for the secret words. Okay. Let me see if it works. If it doesn't work with the secret word, we will be sending you a DM with the link. See, oh no, the secret word doesn't work. So what we will do is that we will make the teams, and Bianca and I will be sending one by one the links to the people. So, salas para los pequeños, dos salas. I will automatically make the breakout rooms. So you will be either in one side or in other, and then we will mix. Okay, so this is the first room, and you will be part A. I will be sending the text to all of you here. Oh, it's not letting me paste. Let's see how can I solve this. Oh, maybe it's too long. Oh no. Okay, I am going to share my screen and I am going to show you the information.
Juan, can you maybe put the link in the Google Doc and perhaps we can get to it that way?
Okay, let's do that. It's going to be in the last, no, I am going to create a new Google Doc and share it. Okay. Okay. So here for part A, this is the link to the description. I will read it really fast. And it says, you have been a regular contributor to a project in the DAO and normally your work gets done and the time it's supposed to. But recently you've been carrying a lot of weight on your shoulders from your personal life. You are ending a relationship with a partner, a close familiar passed away, and your children of 12 years is having a rough time school, so you're helping them to study overnight. You would like to communicate to your colleagues that your regular load of work is being more demanding right now than you would like to, and that you would like to receive support. But everyone else seems also stressed and there are few spaces for vulnerability. So until now, you haven't really expressed how you're feeling. And this week, you didn't review a document that contributor B sent to share with the public. And people in the project got mad because when it got published, the information shared was not precise with the latest decisions taken, and it didn't reflect the amount of work that would be needed to complete the task of the project. When you noticed that the information published was imprecise and the group was looking for responsibles, you said that it was part B's fault because if they had come to the last meeting, they would have known the things that were not included in the document that was published. After an initial public discussion in the chat of the team with part B, who called you lazy for not reviewing their draft, you try to calm down and have a call with part B to look for solutions. You would also appreciate an apology from part B for calling you lazy without knowing the efforts you're making every day. So you can prepare, you will be all part A. I will be sharing this information with part B, and then we will mix. So.
Okay. How long do we have to prepare?
Like 5 minutes. I think this activity will go over the hour, but we will try to do it really fast and short. I will share this information with the other people.
The ability to screen, like how things get screened, I guess.
Oh, here's one. I think he just popped in.
Yeah, hello everyone. I was having some troubles sharing this information, but what I am doing is that I am creating a document and I will be sharing the link to that document with the information of the party that you will role play.
Oh, great.
Okay, so here we have the end here. So, okay. I will make a fast reading. This. And it's, you have been working with part A for more than 6 months now. You met in real life on a conference and until now your relationship with them has been okay. Nothing profound, but very work related and without any tension. You are in charge of making a publication about the project you two are working on, and you weren't able to join last week's call because it was your partner's birthday. But you wrote what was talked last time you were in a call with the team. You sent the draft before publishing to part A about a week ago, but you didn't receive any feedback. So you thought that the document was okay for publishing on the date it was scheduled. After publishing the document, you noticed that the team is mad because they say that the information published was not including some key aspects that were discussed in the last call. In a public chat, part A says that it's your fault because you wrote the article. What triggers you, and you respond saying that part A is lazy because you sent them the draft for review some days ago and they never respond to it. After calming down, part A invites you to have a call and you agree with that. You would like to see this as a shared responsibility rather than an individual mistake, and you are willing to make any correction that could be agreed to by the group, either erasing the publication, making modifications, or creating a new article explaining everything. It was your intention to help the team and support with your writing skills. You would also like to receive an apology from part A for telling the rest of the team that it was your fault without recognizing the shared responsibility and the mistake. Okay, so right now we have part A and part B, and what I will be doing is that I will be creating now another breakout room where we could have two part A's and two part B. You are going to be I don't know if it would be better to make it 1 and 1. I think it could be a little bit messier. So just for the educational purposes, we are going to have two parts A and two parts B in each image. So. Okay. Is it clear? Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
I think so. So
Thank
two
you.
people from this group will take on the role of part B and dialogue when we return.
Okay. Yeah. So I will be making the big room again, and then I will allow you to enter into the other breakout rooms with the other part. So. Okay, how do we do this?
Juan, will we be doing this role play in the large room or in smaller breakout sessions?
Smaller breakout sessions.
Okay.
But I am having troubles with this. That I am not seeing the other room. Okay, it was because I was sharing screen. So I will be closing the rooms, and then you will be able to choose between the rooms, and remember to try to be only with another people from the same group. Why are we still here? Okay, so right now we should have some people being part A and some people being part B. Some people is still coming back. 42 seconds, we will have the whole room. Okay, so to organize the activity, what we will do is that first the part A's will enter into the room and then part B's will enter to the room. To make this activity fast, we are going to have 2 parts A and 2 parts B in the same room. So, oh. Oh. I'm sorry that I am not so skilled with Zoom, and it's a okay.
Impressive
Great
one.
opportunity for everybody to catch their breath. Right?
Yeah, I didn't even know you could do all this stuff with Zoom, so I'm impressed.
Okay, so thank you. So what I am going to do is, okay, to open. Is it asking you to join it? No. So I'm really sorry. Okay, so I am going to be assigning people manually because it's the only way that it's letting me. So parts A, please raise the hand with the reaction in the Zoom thing, and I will be taking you to the places. Okay.
And Juan, I have a hard stop, so I'm going to leave to.
Sorry,
Oh,
Jeremy, that I am having these troubles. But yeah, the ones that can stay, please.
See you guys around.
Perfect.
Good seeing you today.
Okay. Nakia.
Yes.
No, I was just assigning you to a room. Irene. B.
Hey, I also got some. Yeah, I will be more like spectator today, maybe just watching. Just want to say.
Okay, I think parts A are being almost all distributed. I will start with part B in some seconds. Spectrum. accept. Chart. I think that now we have only the part B's here. And can you see the breakout rooms?
Not on my side. Before a window popped up.
Okay. Okay, I will be assigning you.
It was hard. So, but I'm back now. So,
Oh, it's good.
yep. Hey Juan, hi Nico.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hello.
Oh, how's that?
Hey.
Hi, everybody.
Who is part A and who is part B?
I'm A.
Okay.
I don't
So-
know. Where do I find my part?
Basically, what we are seeing here is a conflict between error, between shared responsibilities, and also something about reconciliation. So yeah, you can go with the script. Part A and part B has all of them as a script, so you can go with it. Basically, the conflict is that some information was published and the information was not precise, and the team was looking for some responsibles, and part A said that it was part B's fault, and then part B responded saying that part A is lazy. So I'll let you lead and go to another room.
Okay.
I understand that when it's not publicly your responsibility, like when all of the eyes are over here on me, it's really easy to say, hey, it's all your fault. You should have done this. You should have done that, instead of actually looking back at how can we make sure that this doesn't happen again? Because
there's one.
Hi, Juan.
Is it clear?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so Adrian's going to take our mediator role. I'm part A, and Albus is going to play part B. Does that sound more or less what your expectations were?
In this situation, we won't have a mediator. We may
Okay.
have two people playing one part. So part A and part B. And basically, the conflict is about error culture and about sharing responsibilities. Basically, when the conflict started, when there was some publication without imprecise information, and part A said that it was part B's fault, and part B said that part A was lazy because they had sent them some information and they hadn't received it. They hadn't made feedback on it.
Okay, yeah, that helps. I think we'll just all joint play A and B then.
I will continue moving to the other rooms.
And I also would like to state that I am very reactive at the moment, because all the things that have been happening in my personal life. And
the problem is twofold, basically.
Yeah.
You missed the last meeting, so you had incomplete information. So you basically, there was nothing you could do. And because of my personal issues, I just couldn't get to do it in time, basically, and I let it slide. So
feedback. That means it was okay. That was a mistake. We need to recheck. We need to ask. We need to call to confirm. It doesn't matter if we already sent it. So that was the first lesson. And the other is that we need to review the agenda, the shared agenda, that we have to be very, very careful with the dates for the calls that are very, very important calls for the meetings. It looks like we missed last meeting that was very important, and we can accept that. So we learned that those lessons, and we arrived to agreement. I don't know, Spectre, if you agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was more the procedures that needed to be looked at rather than the people, basically. So we just had to make sure that the procedures worked better. We kind of got the Ops Guild involved to sort of get the ball rolling on updating the procedures to make sure that important meetings are not missed, and also that reports don't go out without reviewing. Either they don't go out, or we get 2 reviewers or 3 reviewers. So create redundancy.
Yeah.
Who wants to share about their experience in the breakout rooms?
I would like to share something that I think we were too nice. We expect conflict to be so, I don't know, ugly. And yeah, so I believe that we were really, really nice. So it is really important that you already have a perspective about the environment, about how to communicate, about if you're willing to have an agreement, if you have in mind that the good for everyone. So to be open to listen. So having that beforehand, it's really important, because I believe that we were too nice because we had it. And that is really important. And also we came into a conclusion of things to add to the working process. So we prevent more things to happen. So it was a good tension to evolve and learn and to better the work together.
I agree. I've had the pleasure of role-playing with Irene, but I agree that in some sense we have to be prepared for real conflict, and it's hard to separate in a role play your own personality and desire to mediate that conflict with the necessity to project what potentially could be. It feels ugly on the inside to embrace conflict in order to characterize it and sculpt it in a way that is, edifying for others, but it's in some sense necessary. So in the next role play, I'll probably be embracing devil's advocate. I'll probably be pretty mean, but or just trying to not understand as hard as I can, which is feels silly, but it's going to be necessary at some point, because somebody will be trying very hard to not understand. And so we have to be prepared for that.
One thing that I thought was interesting, I think someone else brought it up before. Oh, I'm sorry, Guillermo has his hand raised. I can wait.
Thank you, Justin. Yes, I want to add that the tension most of the times is when it's already established due dates and money, right? When that's happen, depending on the money we're talking, is when the tension and the root start in the conflict, right? I don't know if you agree with that.
Also, I think the fact of responsibilities, and it's something that we have been talking about in this training, that when there's a conflict, it's not like the people, but people participating in a conflict. So we should separate the people from the conflict. And we see clearly in this conflict that part A gave responsibility to part B, and also part B gave responsibility to part A instead of assuming a shared responsibility. Yes, Justin.
Oh, and that was kind of part of what I was going to mention, and I think someone else mentioned, is that I think this exercise was really instructive, because I think it is something we're probably going to run into a lot if we do mediation, that there will be an error in process. There'll be some issue in process that hasn't been resolved, and that'll cause there to be a mistake that causes people to have hurt feelings or feel like they were disrespected. And so it's interesting. It was interesting trying to like figure out like what are the process oriented things that caused something to go wrong, and then what are the ways we treated each other when that process went wrong that caused us to have hurt feelings. Those things are kind of distinct, but they're obviously related in these cases. And I thought it was interesting to see that kind of play out. I think a lot of people probably, talked about that, about, well, this is a process issue. We need to figure out how to handle it in the future. But then there's also the element of, well, you hurt my feelings.
Who else wants to share? Contessa?
I want to say, I don't think I started off being very kind. I started off with a little bit of an attitude, didn't really want to listen. And I really did put blame on part A, like y'all messed up. I did what I was supposed to do, y'all messed up, and I don't really want to hear it. And then David was kind enough to kind of de-escalate me just a little bit, not a lot, but just a little bit, to kind of get me to say, you know what, we need to kind of fix the problem. There's a process, there's an issue here. And if we fix that, then y'all won't have to worry about me publishing an article, right? Because if y'all would fix that, then we wouldn't even be having this conversation, is kind of the way that I put it during our role playing. David, would you like to add something?
Well, I just kind of started it off a little flippantly, though, to begin with, because I just came in and was like, this problem has nothing to do with being my fault. I don't. And so it kind of put you on the, I started out with the defensive, so I got what I asked for, I guess.
It was fun. We had fun with it. We did come up with some solutions. But I really can see how this can really escalate really to a high level, to where people can really feel offended in a situation like that, especially if this is something that has happened multiple times over and over and over again, and people feel like they're not being heard. I can definitely see me cussing somebody out in a situation like this.
Hey, is that what happened? Did this happen over and over, or did you just make that part up?
I just made it up.
No, but this happened. This conflict, I took it from a situation that happened in real life. And if we keep in the loop of talking about whose fault it is, we will never tackle the problem, because we will say, no, it was your problem. No, it was your fault. And we don't talk about the problem. But if we like withdraw from whose responsibility it was, and we assume it as a shared responsibility, then we can talk about the problem and how to solve it. Blair, would you like to share your experience?
Sure. Yeah, it was kind of fun. I started off immediately because I was a part B that someone called me lazy, which I found to be really, I mean, if someone did that in an actual work setting, I'd be that's where I'd start, you know. It's like, well, that is kind of what I need an apology for a little bit, you know. And then there was some, I guess my side was kind of blaming a lot, and I again wouldn't do that in a work setting. So I feel like those were like kind of 2 points I feel like needed to kind of like de-escalate from there almost. So that's kind of what I led with, was that comment, and then we kind of like worked back around. Both of us kind of realized we had a lot of family obligations that were pushing us into like other places with our time and energy, and so we didn't really have a way to share that. So like getting a process in place to share that overload, I think, was kind of like, you know, one takeaway, and then like, you know, facilitating communication a lot better and sharing notes and stuff like that. But it was fun, and Abbas in our group like helped us, like he kind of like actually took on the mediator role, which was fun. So but yeah, it was a fun exercise.
It's interesting because some people talked about short-term responses, like rewriting the article, but also what you were talking about is more like a long-term transformative action on like having more spaces to share like private life, and if someone is feeling overwhelmed. And this is like a very simple situation, but we can see how can we approach it from multiple points of view, and also try to look for short-term responses, but also for long-term strategic actions. So yeah, I hope that you liked this session and this exercise. And with that, I think that we can wrap this call and this training. And thank you all for coming and for staying this late. The secret word for the POAP today didn't work, so we're going to be sending them later by DM. So yeah, check your DMs, and you will be receiving the POAPs in the next days.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. See you
Thank
later.
you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks,
You.
Wonka.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.